And welcome to the Legendarium. We are the blue team. Well, we're kind of the blue team. We're the blue team and children today.
Spawn of the blue team.
Spawn of the blue... we can't say son of the blue team because we have our daughters with us. Today, Ken and I are joined by our two lovely daughters, Christian, who is my daughter, and Alexa, who is Ken's daughter. And say hi, Alexa.
Hello.
Yeah, welcome. And then, of course, we have Ken.
Yeah, here I am.
Yeah.
It's always fun in our house now, by the way, to order her around as if she's an Amazon device.
And
Secret is that's why I moved out.
Yeah.
Why am I not surprised?
Whatever it takes is all I'm saying.
That was the moving factor.
You've been saying whatever it takes for years, Ken.
You know,
let's be fair.
Honestly, she's the good one.
I believe that.
Unless her brother's listening to this, and then he's
now I
the
have
good
that
one,
on recording.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. You have witnesses all around the world.
Oh dear.
As always, welcome to the Legendarium. A couple of housekeeping issues. Most of you that listen to us for a long time, you know this. Reach out to us on Reddit. Reach out to us on Twitter, on Discord. Reach out to us through email. Reach out to us on YouTube. Reach out to us. Just reach out to us because we love you. We love hanging out with you. Yeah, we do. It's been a while since we've been in the studio, hasn't it, Ken?
It's, everybody's got things going on, and we just,
it's been kind of crazy. It's since Jurassic Park.
After 2020, when we, crammed basically all of Dresden and all of the Expanse into the calendar year, we're kind of taking 21 off, I think.
Red Team had the year that they did the Wheel of Time. We had the year that we did all of Dresden Files. Mm-hmm. So I think both of us have had a year that we did all of that. So, and let's be fair, I'm itching to get back into the saddle. We've got a lot of stuff that we got to cover this year.
It wasn't all of Red Team on Wheel of Time. I was on that.
That's true, but back then it wasn't a red team and it wasn't a blue team.
It was just kind of amalgam.
It was just us. Yeah, it was fun times.
It was the entire box of crayons.
Enough with the nostalgia. We do want to. Part of the reason that we have our daughters here on the podcast with us today is because this was originally slated to be a Father's Day deal. Yeah. And some of us read the book in time for Father's Day. That's her right there. And the rest of us, it took us a little time to get caught up. But I'll tell you what, we are going to have a lot of fun because this book, before we spoil anything, let's just say I'm glad that we've got our daughters here. This is a really cool deal.
Yeah.
So we've extended Father's Day all the way into the month of July. So I think that's going to become a process now. So I want Father's Day dinner every Sunday until the middle of July. So we're going to work with that.
And honestly, every day with these girls is Father's Day.
Aww. That was so blasted sappy.
Yeah.
The only thing that I will promise today is that there will be no tears. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
I can't guarantee that, actually.
Really?
Just in general, I cry over stupid things.
Yeah, you're going to fit in just fine here, Dave. I'm telling you right now.
I cry over nothing, so you can take all my tears for me.
And I took all of her tears. All right, so
maybe we should mention what this book is called.
Today, I was just going to say, let's jump into the book, shall we? Today we're reading Dandelion. Dandelion is a brand new book. In fact, I think I got the audiobook the day that it dropped.
Yeah.
And I think that you got the book in a advanced readers or a new readers books thing?
I got the book through Kindle Unlimited because when it first released, it was kind of an indie author, and Kindle Unlimited will usually do a lot of indie, lesser known, independent published books for free. So people will try them, see if they like them. And since you have to subscribe to Kindle Unlimited, they're not out any money. And then the authors get some recognition without people having to feel like they wasted money on maybe a book they don't enjoy.
Right.
So I got it the day it came out on Kindle Unlimited, actually, which was pretty close to the day it was published. And that's because my fiance knew it was coming out and let me know about it.
It is a sci-fi book, so it falls very solidly inside of what we do here at Blue Team. Although I have to admit, when I was first reading I'll tell you what, before we get into what we think about the reading, let's see if Ken has a recap for us. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but Ken normally does recaps. Ken, have we filibustered long enough for you to have a recap?
We have a recap. I mean, I crafted sort of a recap, and it's not going to be like a full-scale recap like we're used to because this book is brand new, and I don't want to spoil a lot of it, and also I just didn't want to do a full recap.
Ken, you had us at no spoilers. You didn't need to keep going.
All right. Well, anyway, have you seen Avatar? Have you seen The 100? Have you read Dances with Wolves? Well, then you're up to speed. I mean, on Dandelion. There you go.
That's your recap.
That's
no,
a
okay.
recap.
The
Okay,
end.
fine. No, it's not. Okay, Dandelion follows the crew of the generational ship, say it with me,
Dandelion.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
On their nearly 400-year-long journey to find a habitable world, because they destroyed the first one with a war against augmented humans and stuff. And in their zeal to run as fast as they can away from the Ubermenschen, they end up bringing them right along with them. Oh, spoiler alert. Just kidding. It comes out pretty early.
Goodness.
If you can't figure it out in the first 15 pages, then you're not paying attention.
Amen.
They end up bringing them right along with them in the form of the teen character tropes everybody knows from all of literature. The mousy and adorable nerdy girl, her meaty and simple buddy with the heart of gold, and his homely but lovable sister along with their robot mentor.
Wait a minute. Did you say meaty?
He's very meaty.
I think the
thinking,
book
though.
chooses that word to describe him.
Wow.
I'm just
I
saying.
was stuck on the homely. That's not what I would have used to describe. Deadly, yes. The deadly assassin chick. Yeah.
Her homely and very deadly friend.
There you go.
There
The
you go.
twin sister of the meaty and simple kid there. How about that? Plus their adorable AI who just wants to be loved, and the adults who send them on their merry way because an accident on the ship makes them have to jettison early, and it forces the kids to take the roles that the adults were originally going to take on, and they find the indigenous people on this world that weren't supposed to be there in the first place, but well, now they got to make first contact, and here we go. End of story.
You really did. You did a good job on that one, Ken.
This
So-
book gave me very strong Wall-E vibes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I picked up Wall-E a lot throughout the book.
So that was one of the first questions that I had. What things did this book remind you of? You said Wall-E.
Stargate.
Okay.
Stargate, 100%.
Now,
Yes.
you need to explain this one because we were talking about this a little bit earlier, and I said, all right, I got to hear this.
Okay, so the Stargate vibes happen towards the middle when Amber is starting to learn the language of the aliens. And I'm reading, and it's probably midnight when I'm reading. And I look up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Amber is Daniel. Amber is Daniel. Because she's the nerdy one that's learning the language and is like, we need to meet the people. And then I think that would make probably Roy Teal'c in my brain. And
Okay. I'm seeing this.
And then, the sister's name, Nicole, would be Jack.
Yeah, she's totally Jack.
She's a Jack. And then, the aliens are aliens, so that's cool. They're about who they're supposed to be. But I'm reading it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Stargate, but with no gate.
So, if you don't know Stargate, my daughter, obviously, I've raised my daughter well. I am absolutely thrilled, sweetheart. Well done.
I don't
well
know
done.
Stargate.
How have we never shown
I don't
you?
know.
How have we
I
not
don't
done
know
that?
it.
I have all 10
What a
seasons
failure,
at the
Dad.
house, plus all of the movies. So if your dad can't help you out, come over to the house. We'll schedule a month.
My dad is a failure. Will you adopt me?
Yes, I will.
I have
Ken,
another sister.
How many?
what books did this remind you of?
I was just trying to think of how many times she's cast me off as her father.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
She keeps coming back, Ken. You'll be
That's
fine.
true.
That is true. She does keep coming back because the pantry food is so much better than food you have to buy yourself.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
Anyway, I think I mentioned most of them. I mean, it's Avatar, where they're trying to cultivate this new life, although for different reasons, obviously. I mean, in Avatar, it's much more nefarious than it is in this book. The 100, because here are these kids who have been sent down to a planet to save humanity, and Dances with Wolves, obviously the indigenous people. And it was funny. I swear I came up with that analogy before the AI came up with the analogy. Danny, the AI, because they're on the ship Dandelion.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But before they came up with that analogy in the book, I came up with it. I swear I did. But it was kind of an obvious analogy in the first place.
Yeah, there's certainly some pieces of real history. When they finally got to the point where in the book where they were saying, well, pre-Columbian civilization kind of faltered when the European colonists came in, I was like, oh boy, here we go.
Well, and the Great Madness, I mean, was clearly an allegory for today. I mean, with the whole...
Yes.
Basically the same thing. You've probably heard it a million times, Lex. The same thing I've been saying for millions of years is Americans have too few real problems. And that was what led them to...
That is something I have heard you say.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, there we go. I'm sure Christian has never heard me say that. Never.
But that's basically
Wow.
I mean-
wow, look at your face. Thank you so much.
that's basically
not in
everybody
those
of our
words,
generation.
but in other words, sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but anyway, it's that was something that I, picked up on early, and something that clearly with the Great Madness, that's what they're running from. Is we have to figure out a way to give ourselves problems again, live more deliberately. It's kind of like The Village.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
remember the M. Night Shyamalan Village, where they're walling themselves off to. Is that a spoiler for The Village? I don't know.
Or just about every. I mean, there's at least one episode every Star Trek franchise where people want to get. I'm thinking of the one where Cisco was down on the planet. They locked him in the box because they all wanted to live on the planet,
Right.
all that kind of
Right.
stuff. I will say this: the one book that I don't think any of us have mentioned so far that I thought of right off the bat was Lord of the Flies.
Oh yeah. Wow, can't speak today. Without all of the boulder smashing the kid action, the kids actually get along quite well. Which is great.
We're early in this,
Yeah.
so I'm not sure.
Clearly, it's set up for a sequel.
Oh yeah. In fact, I think it's. I wouldn't be surprised if it was set up for a trilogy. I mean, trilogies kind of sell right now. We've read several of them. In fact, a couple of the trilogies that have turned into 5 books.
Yeah, or more.
Or more. I'm hopeful that we're going to avoid any of the repeats of William Golding's Lord of the Flies, but maybe not.
Here's
Maybe
two
not.
more I thought of that will be near and dear to your heart, Todrick. Dune.
Yes.
In fact, I think one of the character classes is called a Mentat.
Yes.
And John Carter of Mars, because all of these super adapted kids who they get into the
John
lesser
Carter.
gravity, and they can do all of these things.
John Carter. Sack. That whole, you know what? When they did say mentats and apostles and knights, I sat down and I said to myself, "Oh, okay, we ran out of new words.
Pretty much.
We ran out of new words."
They're just harvesting from old science fiction at this point. And honestly, I mean, is there any new science fiction that isn't harvested in some way from what comes before it?
Well, and the question always becomes how much of a book needs to be reminiscent of another book before we call it derivative, right?
Right.
And I told Christian that we weren't going to spend a lot of time talking academically about this stuff, but that's probably one of the things that deserves to be mentioned. Yeah, there are some things that come from other books that we've seen used in other places, but I think a fresh treatment doesn't mean that we can't enjoy them, and doesn't mean that we shouldn't give them a chance.
Agreed.
So I do want to start with, because
We haven't started?
Wow. Thanks, Ken. Thank you so much. Obviously, it's the chair. I thought it was Craig not being in the room. No, it's the chair.
The chair producer provides the power.
Yeah.
And the power goes to the head.
That's
I'm
right.
Gonna
Naturally.
remember that. So one of the things that I wanted to ask, any of the science that was in this book that you guys said, wow, I'm glad they included that because it drives some of the conversation. One of the things that we don't, but I always like to talk about how the science drives the fiction. So were there pieces of this that you said, oh yeah, nice job with the science driving the fiction on this one? What did you guys find? Did you find anything?
I don't know. I just thinking about the thing I thought was cool was how on the ship they were able to mimic different not atmospheres, but different like weathers, different climates. Yeah. And so when they got to the new planet, it was different enough that they weren't sure quite what was happening, but it was familiar enough that they didn't feel out of place either.
Yeah. Really cool. Really cool.
Yeah.
Ken, what about you?
I liked a lot of the science, and a lot of the stuff was, I mean, I'm kicking myself since you said it that I didn't name the ship the generational ship derivative, but I wish I had. And I should say, this is our first tangent, but I should say I enjoyed this book. I'm going to be extra critical of it a lot.
I was going to get us there, but thanks for getting there now.
Just because I'm snarky like that, and but I did enjoy this book a lot, actually. But a lot of the stuff, a lot of the science...
Behold the underlying truth.
Yeah. A lot of the science was stuff of it wasn't really science driving the fiction. It was just science
Was there.
was there. Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much like the U tool, which is just a sonic screwdriver. It's whatever you need for your convenience.
Hallelujah for that reference. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
The Doctor Who portion of my soul and both my hearts just lit up. So thank
there
you.
you go. So, and I mean, the generational ship that is there for whatever climate of convenience we need at the moment, and we have all of the foodstuffs we need, and clearly, I mean, they mentioned they're going to run out, and we have to actually try to find things that are sustainable for us on this planet. But I never felt any real weight to it, I guess.
Yeah.
Until there was actual conflict. We finally get conflict at the last third of the book, but really, I mean, the science didn't drive it. It was just kind of all here it is again. It felt very teen drama, you know, where you are designed, the characters are designed to enjoy them, but the plot and the setting and stuff really don't matter. It could be any.
Yeah, it could
be any setting, any whatever.
And I think we'll come back to that in just a little bit, because I think there's some insight into this about why it works and why it doesn't.
Yeah.
About that, but I want to see if Christian, did you find any of the science pieces that you said, oh, okay, I'm glad that's there. I'm glad it works. It drives the fiction.
So I like that they were using an O'Neill cylinder. Again, I love someone who's very into space. Dustin and I, my fiance, we've talked about how
I thought you were talking about me.
we've had the conversation of if manned missions to Mars are ever a thing, we'll go. If there's ever, orbital habitats that people are looking for volunteers, we would volunteer for that. That's something we've talked about. And
I'm so proud of her.
We've also
so
talked
proud of
about,
her.
As you should be.
because he likes this stuff, he's told me very in depth about what would and would not work and what's realistic and not realistic. And an O'Neill cylinder, which is what they actually use in Dandelion, is a very realistic model. It's a practical model that could work. And so I really liked that it was that, because I'm like, oh, this is more than just like, it's not a Star Trek ship where it's, everyone's walking down corridors. It's a real environment in there to prepare them. And I thought that was a really cool setup, and it just fit. It made sense with the story and where the story was going to go.
Yeah, I think it used to be called the Nauvoo, and then it was called a Behemoth. But once they rescued it from the ring, then I think
Then it
they
was
renamed
Medina
it
Station. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could.
But
That was another. I really wish I had kept a list of all of the references to other books that I had caught in this one, because that was another one. The Expanse, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
there was a piece. There were a couple of pieces that I was glad they were included, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Well, one drives part of the story and one doesn't. But they both revolve around the same thing, and that's astronomical distances. I'm very glad that when they were starting to deal with the main, it'll probably be in the entire series, the main conflict of the entire series of some kind of a danger, a threat to the actual ship.
Right.
That causes them to have to jettison all of the children, as Ken referenced in his recap, and that jettisoning is what Danny was using as propellant, as thrust.
Right.
Equal and opposite reactions, all of those kinds of things for laws of thermodynamics, laws of spatial mechanics. Thank you, Newton, for giving us all of those pieces that we could talk about on this podcast. Because for me, that was the piece that starts this whole process running, and we get a glimpse. This is the piece that I thought was the most interesting as far as the science driving the fiction, and it is the question of how does an AI get bounded. We have seen...
Right. Oh, yeah, iRobot. That's another one.
We have seen...
7 Laws or whatever.
He's going to keep doing this all night long, isn't he?
Well, I mean...
But we expect that.
The generational ship derivative.
Yeah. In Asimov's iRobot, we've also got the Terminator series with Skynet. By the way, I'm working with a company called Skynet out of Russia. That freaks me out just a little bit.
It should.
Long story.
The fact that it's out of Russia.
The fact that it's out of Russia,
should.
Called Skynet,
Yeah.
It's just kind of one of those things.
It's just... You're just asking for trouble.
I don't think we have any listeners in Russia. If we do, we still like you. It's just weird. But the question of AIs becoming aware of human beings being inefficient and trying to get rid of them I'm not sure how much of that will play into this story long term. I think we've had some hints. The Great Madness that caused us all to have to evacuate and all of those kinds of things. I think we've had some hints that perhaps that was going on. And the idea that Danny, this artificial intelligence, is now bounded by some very specific creations. One of them being that he craves attachment and approval and love. What an interesting... That's perhaps, for me at least, the most original piece out of this whole first piece, is that we've got an artificial intelligence that needs to be loved. And
using that as a check and balance for him, because they clearly the people who created Danny and the other AI just like him have seen Skynet and have seen Terminator and seen those movies where machinery outgrows humanity, so they actually program in a check and balance for him in that, well, you can't outgrow humanity because you need a friend.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a like forced dependency almost.
Right.
They force him to be dependent upon humans, which in theory would keep him from then trying to annihilate the humans
And you
he's
see
forced to
him
love.
make decisions based on that dependency throughout the whole book.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And finally figure out that he is carrying Khan, and that the name of the ship should be Space Seed, or the Botany Bay.
The Botany Bay.
Because of all the augmented humans. What did you think about that augmented human thing? Did you buy it? I mean, did you see it and did you buy it?
Well, I saw it because, I mean, they made it pretty clear right early in the book with the Olympics.
They
With
didn't
all the
try to
Olympics
hide.
stuff. Yeah, they didn't.
They didn't try to hide it till the great reveal.
Yeah.
They just kept it going.
Yeah, and usually, I mean, in pretty much any story, you see something like that where they talk about, it's interesting, a couple of these kids are only 12 years old, but man, they're sure much better and better than all the adults. That's interesting and in no way going to come back to be germane to this story.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, stuff like that.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it actually, I knew something was coming that was related to that, but until it actually happened, until they were like, oh, everyone's augmented, I was like, oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of liked that as just an element of it. It wasn't a twist so much as they were like gentle curves. This book was full of gentle curves that I'm like, I can see something coming, but I'm not quite sure. And I liked that. I like books where you don't have to...
her. They showed her thought process to her figuring it out herself.
Yes.
Instead of them saying, "Oh, this is a thing." Also, they let her figure it out and show how she figures it out.
Her meaning the captain in this case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Captain Torres, I believe.
Yeah, we've really
Anita.
we've really got we've really I love the fact that you guys love these people enough to call them by their first names. It kind of feels like we have 3 stories running all into the same spot. We've got a long-running story of augmented humans causing problems for themselves, especially when it comes to being overshadowed by AIs, beneficent or otherwise. We've got a planet of people who have their own feudal wars going on, and we've got a story of coming-of-age children in the midst of a colonial process. And as all 3 of these stories wind up centering around what happens with these children, and I'm thinking the children, not only the children from the generational ship, but the children also from our alien counterparts on Wavebird. I can't remember. Evilson? Seville, thank you. Thank you. Tarskan, anyway, I can't remember.
say his last name.
You know.
I was going with Tars Tarkas myself. Every time they said that, that's John Carter, sack. But yeah, it's interesting that this is not a single story. This is multiple stories that are all just converging on a single point, and that point happens to be very fragile and very volatile and very shapeable, moldable. And so I think, as we watch more of this, I think we're going to have a lot of very interesting opportunities for twists. Yeah, not so many twists yet, but I think we got some coming.
Oh, I'm sure of it.
It leaves plenty of questions for the future books that are inevitably coming. That cryptic epilogue, which really makes no sense now, but I'm sure will eventually.
Oh,
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved the cryptic epilogue.
Yeah, there's going to be one of the things that I have learned over all of my years of reading and writing is anytime somebody wants to tease you with something like that, oh yeah, they've already planned what they're going to do with
Right.
it.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And it's up to you to figure out what's going to be going on with that. So let me ask this question. Favorite scenes? Were there any? Or was it just all one blissful romp through coming of ageness on a different planet?
It was a ripping good yarn.
I mean, I loved
Level
it.
1.
But if I had to pick a favorite scene, it would be the first contact scene.
I have raised her so well.
I
Haven't I?
died. I died. I'm reading this and I'm like, they did. And I'm laughing on my couch and Dustin comes out. He's like, what? I'm like, I can't tell you because you're going to read it later.
I know.
I can't tell you.
Do we dare say? No, we don't dare say.
You can't.
You got to
Because
read it.
You got to read it.
You got to read it.
Because it's worth reading.
I laughed so hard. I'm so proud of you, darling.
Thank
I'm
you.
so proud
You
of
raised
you.
me well.
I think Mom would actually be entertained by that too. But I know a few people, as soon as it happened, I both went, oh man, people are going to roll their eyes at that one.
Yeah. But I don't care. I loved it.
It was quite fun. It was quite entertaining.
I think that was the moment. I actually I listened to it and I had to like rewind to make sure like I heard it right. So I was like, did they really?
Yeah.
It was a good
Yeah.
moment.
Ken, what about you?
It was all fun. I enjoyed the moment. I enjoyed the emergency moment, because it just kind of obviously something had to happen to spur all of the conflict into motion.
Sure.
But still, through the first 6 chapters or whatever, when it was establishing what this society is all about, and then all of a sudden it slams into place like, oh, there's something firing at us. And so everything now slams into motion, and that was exciting. And then the fact that it's not a spoiler because it literally sets everything else into motion. But when they get out of it by jettisoning the kids and basically screwing up all of the plans for the adults who had come along, or like, I'm going to make first contact, and I'm going to be the first person to speak to a unique species and all of that. And
I'm John Smith. I've come to conquer your world.
Exactly. And
Oops,
now
I got left behind.
And now somebody else gets to be John Smith. Congratulations, those stinking kids. And now they're going through all of the conflict of, well, do we recall them? The kids aren't going to like that too much because they're going to actually establish civilization in the 8 years it takes for us to turn around, and go back and get them. All of that leading up to the scene that I really enjoy, where they're actually confronting Danny on why they're doing their after action assessment, basically, and saying, Danny, why did we jettison the kids? I jettisoned them so that we could avoid being shot. Wait, you used our kids as bait? Basically, he's like, no, I didn't use them as bait. That was just a fortunate side effect of my course of action. Why can't 2 things be true at once, stuff like
the clinical approach that Danny takes to this gets us out of the way. It ensures the survival of the human species. It gets the kids down to the planet. This is a win-win-win for Danny.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's the adults that have the problem.
Yeah.
It's people.
And the people's reasonings are selfish. It's not for the good of like the whole people. It is that screws up my life plan, and now I'm mad.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not purely. I mean, it is. Yeah, by and large, it is a lot of that. But some of them are truly, I think, concerned that, you sent my children out and...
Yeah, some of these kids are like, 10, 12 years old? Imagine sending your 12-year-old be like, see you in 8 years.
And that's something that's lost on this is Danny and Roy and Nick are they're the old ones, and they're only 15.
Yeah.
And so these Rangers are kids. So.
And everywhere along at every point along the line, we are we have little reminders. They're children. They're children. They're children.
Yeah.
Okay, I said no tears, but maybe, and maybe not. I rode a lot, so I sweat. I went on a bike ride earlier today, so maybe all of my tears are gone from my body in the form of sweat.
Todd likes the children.
I do like the children. I love my children, but the idea of being told you have said your goodbyes, and 2 years. In our culture, we've had opportunities to say goodbye to our sons for 2 years on a mission. Having the opportunity to watch children go off on trips and different kinds of things, that's hard, especially when they are 12 and 15 and whatnot. Finding out that your children have just been sent to an unknown, potentially hostile situation, and you are not there to help.
Right.
As a parent, and when I hit that point in the book, I was driving. I'm always driving when I'm hitting these points of the book, and I started thinking very hard about how do I feel about that. I mean, obviously the children have been raised. Everybody's been raised to recognize that this is part of what they're going to be doing. They call the kids rangers, and they've been, trained to handle these kinds of situations. But there's a big difference between training them to handle these kinds of situations in somewhat controlled environments and letting somebody go into a completely uncontrolled environment where you cannot help. There is no cavalry, and they will either survive or die on their own. And that for me was that conversation. I expected myself to relate more to some of the more logical parents, and I did not. What was the guy's name? Had the younger daughter, and he just really went off on Danny and was very emotional about it.
I don't remember. I really enjoyed that one though.
I was right in step with him. No tears. No tears.
Hold him back.
But I was right in step because I'm not sure how I would handle it. I'm not sure.
Especially because it was sudden. It was, they thought they had so much more time, and suddenly it's, no, they're leaving in half an hour, and they're gone.
Yeah. But isn't that the way? I mean, as a parent, that's kind of the way. It's like you have all this time to prepare, and you teach them, and you give your kids the tools to be self-sustaining when the time comes, and eventually you send them out on and it doesn't matter how much time you have with them. I've found that no amount of teaching, no amount of training, no amount of preparation, you're never ready. When it's time for them to actually go, you're just never ready.
As we say with both of our daughters here. Who
exactly.
have left the house. And it's just the way that it goes.
All your best training, it's left to chance ultimately when they anyway. But then they turn out pretty good anyway.
They turn out pretty good, but boy, it's amazing the stuff they jettison. So anyway, we won't go any further with that one. I have to admit, I'm surprised you didn't say the scene at the end, the fight at the end was your favorite scene.
The fight at the end was good. I enjoyed it. I mean, but it was
the only punching in the whole
I was gonna
book.
say, it's the most action.
Well, it was the most action, but it was
cartoonish.
Not cartoonish, but basic. I don't want to come down on it too harshly, because as somebody who has never really written, great action, let alone action, or action, let alone great action, it was a fine scene. It was good quality writing. I love the nobility shown by both sides. That's great. Even the bad guy, because one side was set up, I don't remember what they're actually called. I just called them berserkers.
Scarless?
They're called the Unscarred. It's the Berkjar.
That's what I'm just going to.
She read the book. I just listened to it.
I'm just going to keep calling them berserkers because
it's pretty much a berserker.
That's basically what they are. They're the leader's right hand man who's there to just fight. They're there to be the number one or the number two for the leader. When a duel needs to be handed down or somebody's honor is impugned. They're there to fight. Yeah. And I love that even the bad guys have real honor and not just the honor of convenience that sometimes you see in these bad guys. So yeah, I enjoyed that scene, but it wasn't Sandersonian in its scope.
Wasn't that from Amber's perspective, a 15-year-old? So maybe that also had something to do with it. It was a battle in the eyes of a 15-year-old.
That could absolutely be. I can see that.
I could see that.
Let's go with that.
Go ahead, Christian.
I was going to say, I thought of that scene as more of like an amuse-bouche or like an appetizer of, okay, now we're going to start getting into the action. We've built up the story. We've built up this world. This is what's coming. because they also sent down the militia.
Yeah.
So you know that more fighting is coming. They sent people
Right.
that their only desire is to smash things and break things. And so that's coming.
A whole bunch of Roys.
It's a whole shuttle pod full of Roys, and I can't wait to see the chaos.
With questionable, varying degrees of nobility. I mean,
Yes.
Roy has that savage nobility, clearly, but the others could be just as savage as Roy without that.
And so
honor,
does Mick.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that I found really interesting is that Roy is portrayed as as I was thinking through some of the similarities that you had mentioned earlier. Roy is very much a hand to hand. He's the hand to hand guy. He's the tank you send in.
Right.
But Mick she's the sniper. She's the crosshairs.
Nick.
Did I say Mick?
You're saying Mick. It's Nick.
Nick.
Because her
Sorry.
full name is Nicole.
Yeah.
Nick. Yeah, I don't think I ever heard it that way because I was listening to it at 1.7 speed. That probably explains a lot. And the accent threw me off every now and again. But yeah, she has what did they I think it was Danny that said she's a stone cold, or one of the characters said she's a killer. She is a stone cold
I
killer.
was gonna say she was
Actually
described
did.
that way several times.
Yeah.
Danny did it in a much more political way because he talked about her special ops training that she did and how she's fine to just like lay in a sniper's pouch or sniper's like
A
hut.
sniper's
Sniper's
perch.
nest.
Yeah.
Thank you, perch, and just stay there.
And
she's fine
she
to be there.
does.
Oh,
you
yeah,
see
she
it.
does.
She does.
Yeah.
I can't sit still that long.
Oh, believe me, I know. But then I know where you come from. Yeah, I think that from a standpoint of setting up for some really interesting long-term stuff, I think there was some really nicely placed pieces. The question that I have is, how do you guys feel about this as far as something going on? Is this one that you want to pick up and read the rest of it? Is it one that you, and why, if you do, or why not, if you don't?
I'd say yes, simply because there is that whole, they just sent down a whole lot of people to fight, and there has not been a big fight. So they're setting up for a big fight. And I want to read that.
Okay.
Apples and trees right there.
Fathers and daughters.
Right.
Could we have planned this any better for Father's Day? A month late.
But she's not wrong. They have set up all this real good fighting, and I'm interested to see if it will pay off. Not only do we have militia down, but we have several other camps that we did not see in this book.
Yeah.
So Ember's camp is not the only one. There were 3 others that landed successfully and were able to set up, and it was Walker that was able to get them integrated. Did the other 3 camps have as easy a time as our heroes' camp? Or did they learn very quickly that we got to be hard and we got to be hard fast, and now they are just out for, collecting native scalps, as it were?
And did they run into people also like Amber's camp did?
Yeah,
So,
and I think one of the things that they were trying to illustrate was that the other camps probably were isolated enough that they probably haven't been hit yet, because the Western continent or the Eastern continent, I can't remember which one it was, but one continent is separated, so they figured that they were
right.
probably going to be the ones that had first contact and nobody else will. But how long is that going to last?
Not to mention the fact that we have a native faction who is given foreign technology far advanced from their current level of technology, in clear violation of the Prime Directive.
No,
Exactly.
thank you, Captain Picard.
You betcha. So now we get to see what happens when this bad guy native, when the bad guy native tribe gets guns, basically.
Yeah, in the book they reference this. They talk about it a lot, about the fact that they've already corrupted the culture. I get a kick out of that every time I hear it, because I'm like, okay, wait a minute. The fact of the matter is that we have interrupted every culture of each other's, let alone any culture that we're going to find anywhere else along the line.
Yeah.
Why do we worry about these things as much as we just have to recognize that it is an eventuality that will happen? We contaminate each other's cultures and one person would say we contaminate them. Another person might say we're cross-pollinating. And I think both could be done. Both sides could be protected. But I do find it interesting that they've gotten a U-tool. It's locked down, but Danny's going to keep it open enough that he can use it to spy on him, which means he's going to keep it open enough that they can play with it and figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly they know human language too.
Also,
he found the
yeah.
the dictionary tool. So
Also interesting is that it goes to a mercenary who is working for the larger and more warlike of some of the factions that exist of these native peoples.
yeah.
And so and now that the humans have chosen to back one of the more peace-loving but smaller, less influential factions, how much influence is that going to have? That would be something that would be kind of fun to read as well.
Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to reading the next books, not because, partially because the story is amazing, but the writers have a long-standing series called Death Worlders that has been going on for years, and it continues to be fresh and new, and they are able to continually craft this story that's gone on at least 5 years now. This
is the one you were talking about on Reddit, right?
Yeah, the one on Reddit called Death Worlders. They publish a new chapter once a month, and it's well done. They're well edited. They're well thought through. There's no big major plot holes. So I'm really excited to see what they do just because I know what they can do. Every day I'm checking for the next update of when the book 2 is going to be released because I'm reading that all in one night. Mm-hmm. Taking the day off the next day at work. I don't care. I have the flu.
And if her boss is listening, that was her decision, not mine. So I think we've all kind of agreed that there's something worth looking into to watch to read the rest of this or listen to the rest of this, as depending on how you consume your material these days. I have to admit, from my side, I see things in it that I want to pursue. I'm not sure I'm going to pursue it when it comes out. I think I'm going to wait until it's done. And the reason that I'm saying that is because I'm in the middle right now of a couple of series that I'm waiting for next books. And that is really, really, really frustrating.
We've been burned before.
We really have. Hallelujah that we were able to do everything that we've been able to do with some of the series that we've got. But I'm waiting for some stuff, and waiting for stuff is really, really hard. So I may pull a card out of the library of Craig and say, I'm going to wait for this one to be finished before I actually dive back into it. Having said that, I'm really quite impressed with what they've set up, with how they've set it up. And this is where I guess I have two questions that I want to ask to finish things off. The first one, and Alexa and Christian, I don't know if this will mean anything to you, but Ken, levels in this book. Did you see? Do you feel like this one addressed addressed anything in level 2 and level 3 in very convincing ways, or was it just really a level 1 book for you?
Well, I thought there was quite a bit of level 2 stuff, especially when we find out what the dynamic is between Danny and the captain.
Yeah.
And Danny and the ship, and how the AI is supposed to govern. Without being a governor, how they're supposed to guide society. I think that is a lot of political intrigue in that.
Fascinating that they said the children are going to have to run the new world
because
they're the settlers. And by the time we get there, we will be coming into their civilization. So they have to develop it.
Yeah.
That was one of the, by the way, when that happened, I heard killed a pig. That was where I said to myself, oh my gosh, especially when we have an entire couple of shuttles of Roys fly down, and I'm saying to myself, oh boy, I hope there's not any kid there that is going to be picked on, because that's just going to get ugly. And I think I'm if I'm making a prediction, that's a prediction that I'm making, is that they're going to have some kind of a situation where the kids wind up having their own first murder, and they have to figure out how to deal with it. That is a huge piece that I think just screams level 2.
Well, especially when you have Roy, who flat out said, "Oh, I enjoy murder."
Yeah.
He said that. That was a line. And if there are a ton of other Roys coming, because like Nick, she was like, oh, I'm indifferent. I don't care. But Roy enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And when you have both of those and you have a whole ton of them, then you have a situation you're setting yourself up for.
Yeah. I agree.
Not to mention the fact that you now have Roy who's tasted First Blood and enjoyed it. So
Yeah, and I wonder about that. From a level 3
senior year could just be a mess for poor Roy.
Oh my goodness.
Poor guy.
He's 15.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
15.
Junior year.
Yeah. He doesn't even have a driver's license yet, and he's already, taking his first scalp. To quote you from earlier.
But what I want to know is he going to ask Amber to the camp prom?
Oh my goodness. I can't believe you said that. Of course not. She's going to go with Seville.
Naturally.
And we're going to have all kinds of issues with that as well.
He's from the wrong side of the tracks, don't you know?
Yeah, I know. He's a werewolf in the middle of all of the vampires or something like that. I'm
my.
sorry. I'm sorry. I had to throw that one in too.
How many more can we throw in there?
We got a few more minutes left.
Let's
We'll
go.
figure a few more.
I did want to know who everybody, out of all of the specialties, what houses, what do we call them?
Out of the
gene
lines.
What are they?
The gene mods?
Yeah.
Yes, gene mods. Out of all the gene mods, which one would you want to be?
Or which one do you think you would be?
Or which one do you think you would be?
Apostle.
Kenn's a knight.
Yeah.
Just in case anybody was wondering, Kenn's a knight.
Would this be? I mean, they are called the Knights of Kenn. I mean,
Oh my goodness, Kenn. Yes, they are.
they are.
I know there was a guy who was like a chef prodigy. That would be me.
Yes, it would.
But I
yes,
would
it
love
would.
to like pick up languages like Amber did. Like that to me, that was like one of the things that pulled me and drew me is I was like, I want that skill.
Yeah.
But I would be the chef.
Yeah, I'm not sure for me whether
Would be
it's
such a good chef, though. Well, I mean,
what you can do with blue mushrooms would probably astound us all.
I'm going to work on that.
Yeah,
I'll get started.
I believe
Do
that.
it.
I believe that. I don't know if I'd be apostle or mentat. I need a little bit more information on the mentats
Oh, yeah.
in order to know, but I know I'm not a knight. I know I wouldn't be a knight, but apostle or a mentat, yeah, that's probably where I'm going to be at.
we just change your name to Duncan, Idaho.
Please do. And give me, metal eyes
Sure.
from the Bene Tlalexu, and, I'm good to go. And then resurrect me every couple of years because I get flattened by my boss.
So weird.
So, but I want to jump back to levels one time really quick.
Okay.
I think that one of the pieces that it needs to be addressed more, and I think I think the authors have done a good job of setting this up on a level 3, is the cost when innocence is lost.
Yeah.
Roy's, we've got the civilization piece, but how do you live with yourself afterwards? And how do you live with yourself after you make some of the choices that you have to make? All of us, I know for me, I look at you, and I'm looking at Christian, for those that are listening to the podcast. I look at you and I see my daughter, and quite frankly, I have a tough time seeing an adult woman. I see my little girl. I'm sure Kenn feels the same with Alexa.
Well, yeah. I mean, just look at her. She's my little girl.
And
Helps that I'm only like 5 foot tall.
well, there is that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that would
I
help.
haven't grown since I was like 12. So
Christian didn't either.
Yeah,
So,
no, I haven't.
it kind of fits. But the interesting thing is you guys make choices. You've made choices. You've had to deal with some of those kinds of things. Those are things that we can't prepare you for. Likewise, Kenn and I in our lives, we've had to make choices along the line that sometimes they were great choices, sometimes they weren't. You have to live with those choices. And living with choices, especially life and death choices the way that they have, I don't think that's a level 2 conversation. I think that's a level 3 conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested to see how that's going to be handled. The level 2 stuff, my goodness, it hit me over the head with it one more time. Yeah, how are we going to figure out how to set up civilization? Let's do it like we always did before and screw up the same ways. But a level 3 is it's very personal. It's how do we individually live better lives as a result of this? And I think that's a question that they are addressing with Danny, with Amelia Torres?
Anita.
Anita Torres, thank you. I don't memorize their names anymore. It's just not worth it my time. That's a horrible thing to say. I apologize. I'll take it back.
I'll make notes next time we do this.
Fix that in post, would you?
Well, I didn't remember her last name. I just remembered that she was Captain.
Captain Torres. Yeah.
I'll tell you how I remembered that later.
But I think we've got, and I think the adults, I think Walker is going to have to figure out how he deals with the fact that he has to let these kids figure stuff out, and they're going to have to.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, any predictions? That was the next thing I want to ask before because we'll finish off. We'll ask you what you really think of the book and if you like it. Obviously, all of us liked it enough. But any predictions that you're going to think? We've kind of hinted at some along the way. But are there any specific predictions that you would make for the next books that are coming up?
I'm trying to think.
One.
I'm not sure if I can think of anything specifically that we haven't already covered in terms of general predictions about, I think this is going to happen. I think these people are going to do this and that. And, it should be interesting with you. I can't think of anything specific.
Okay.
But I am interested to see what the bigger picture is.
Okay.
With the numbers and the people who are shooting at the humans because the humans are scary.
I think that's a big piece. And I wonder if what we're going to find out is that I wonder if there's another artificial intelligence that's involved in all of this.
Here you go. Just because it combines my favorite loves from books, it's them in the future shooting at themselves because they know they screw everything up.
Oh my goodness, no.
Stop. We
Time
can't
travel.
Okay.
Buzzer.
Just because H.G. Wells is one that we haven't thrown in yet, we throw in the time machine. Thank you very much.
Yep.
I'll tell you one of the predictions that I have. That poison that they got out of Roy's system, it's not out of Roy's system.
Yeah,
No,
that's
definitely not.
That was something I thought also.
Yeah, as soon as they said, "Oh yeah, we got the U-tool in it," we neutralized that sucker right off the bat. I'm like, that's not how these things work.
Especially because it's not a poison they know.
Exactly. As good as Danny is, he doesn't know anything about the local flora and fauna. I have the feeling that we're going to find out. Oh yeah, this stuff is nasty.
Or maybe it's like radiation, and he suddenly becomes even stronger based on what the U-tool did to it.
Yeah, no, you know what I bet it is?
Gamma Roy.
It's not going to be gamma rays. I bet it turns him into a zombie, and we've got World War Z that we can throw into this
on
one
the
as
alien
well.
planet.
Yeah,
All
on
right,
an alien planet.
I was going to say more along the lines of it knocks all of his inhibitions out, and now we've got Killer Evil Juggernaut Roy rampaging through.
Could be interesting.
Okay.
Through things.
Yeah.
And X-23/Nikki/Wolverine has to take out her own brother.
Yes. Oh, I like
well,
that.
Nikki doesn't feel anything anyway, so.
Yeah,
she could-
Except for
blink
her
and not
brother.
do
That's
it.
true.
Except
her love
for her brother.
Amber and
That's
Roy
true.
is
Yeah.
the only thing she shows throughout.
Yeah.
until Amber declares her love, and it's her love that
That
brings
gets in between
Roy
the two
back.
of them. Oh no!
Yep.
Oh,
It brings
please.
Roy back. It turns him from Green to Bruce Banner again.
Thank you. So we've completely worked the Avengers into this as well.
Wow.
All right.
Impressive.
Well, I guess in the comments that our listeners will leave for us, they're going to tell us what movies we didn't include as we were comparing this.
I'd like to see what we missed.
Well,
Right?
and to be fair, it might take a little while because we didn't tell anybody we were reading this book. So I don't think we put it out on Reddit. We didn't tell
we didn't
anybody in
ask for
advance.
questions. I don't know.
So we may have to come back to this maybe in a midweek episode or something after we get a whole bunch of questions. And maybe respond to some of those along the line. Maybe we'll invite you ladies back. Maybe it'll just have to be Ken and I, and we'll get you on text and have you text in some answers and those kinds of things.
We're bringing them back. When the next book comes out, we're bringing them back.
Heck yeah.
I'll
I'm
be
making
here.
the executive
I will-
decision.
Okay.
Anytime you want me here, I'm here.
All
I
right.
like this. I like reading and talking about
I would be
books.
interested to know what references we left out, what references we missed.
Yeah,
because we threw out so many.
The number of tropes that were used and the number of references that were made to other books or other series or other science fiction properties, I think we got a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm struggling to figure out if we left any out. I'm sure the C-3PO could tell us
I was
one or
gonna
two
say, I
that we
think we
left
missed
out.
Star Wars, but
Yeah.
Well, and I don't want to be too hard on Phil Johnson and Justin Lewis because, I mean, everything is derivative from something these days.
Yes.
And quite frankly, the way that they put these things together, while they may have been borrowing puzzle pieces from other places, the way they put them together was quite fresh.
Yeah, and it was
quite
and it was
enjoyable.
enjoyable.
original.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Original enough.
Yes.
The characters were enjoyable. How's
It
that?
felt like I wasn't rereading a book I'd already read.
Yeah.
Yes.
The only part of it that I felt was like a book that I'd already read was when they were brushing her long hair, and I felt like I was rewatching Merida. In
Flower, Gleam, and Glow.
That's
See,
a
I had-
different movie.
I had to throw in Disney at some point in time, so
Well,
we
I
got
already
Disney.
did, so.
Did you throw in Disney
Yeah,
earlier?
because the book reminded me of Wall-E.
Oh, that's
she
right.
did.
Wall-E was a
Wall-E.
Disney property.
Did
Yep.
say
Okay.
Wall-E.
Well, we're good.
I like
We're good.
Wall-E.
I think
did
I
too.
think we have now offended everybody, and we're going to be getting letters from a legal department from a lot of different places. So, last thoughts. Would you recommend the book, and who would you recommend it to?
I would. I recommend it with the warning that the first part's kind of slow. At least I thought so. I kind of had a hard time getting into the first part.
Yeah.
But as soon as they were all in the ship and they were leaving, it picked up, and from there I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
I would absolutely let her 15-year-old sister read this. I mean, absolutely. I mean, and even younger. I mean, if your brothers were still young, I would hand it to them. Yeah, there's nothing harmful in this for little kids to read, and it's not heavy concept or anything like that. It's an enjoyable read.
Okay.
It really is.
Okay, Christian.
Yeah, so I gave this one, I'm giving it this one. I haven't posted the review on my Instagram yet because I wanted to wait till we did the recording. But I'm actually giving it a 5 out of 5 for the year. It was an enjoyable read. I think it's great for older young adults, like that, 13 to 15 range, up to new adults for sure, because you could pick it up and put it down, and it's an easy enough that you can pick it up, put it down, and you're not going to feel like you have to reread things. But it moves at a fast enough pace that, I got through it in a week.
Yeah.
So if you have the time, it really moves itself along really well. So I thought it was great.
Yeah, I'd recommend this to. I'd recommend this to, like most of you have said, to younger readers. I don't think this is, and to readers who are new to science fiction, and maybe want to find out a little bit more, want to read something that's a little more approachable in the genre. I wouldn't recommend it to some of my friends that have read some really hard science fiction already, or who are consumers of really classic science fiction, because they may feel like they're rereading stuff. But I think from the standpoint of, is this a good entry point into some science fiction, especially some modern science fiction? I think this could be a decent book, a decent read, and certainly it's approachable for a younger audience, teenage to young adult. I think it works really well.
Agreed.
All right, well, ladies, thank you for joining us for Father's Day. This has been a delight. Hopefully everybody else will have enjoyed it as well. In the meantime, we'll see you next time on the Legendarium.